I have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all.
So with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this wonderful land of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face, and that affects so many aspects of our daily lives, from our interpersonal relationships, our family relationships, our community relations, and even our business operations, our government operations, every aspect of our lives. And I've spent my professional career largely dealing with the problem and writing about it on my primary blog site at manipulative-people.com. That's www.manipulative-people.com, where you can find hundreds of timely articles on all matters related to character disturbance, how to understand and properly deal with those individuals in your life that make you a little crazy, and also the blog that I write for, based in the UK, Psychology, Philosophy, and Real Life at counselingresource.com. That's counseling with 2 L's, resource.com. And then I also write about these matters in my 4 best-selling books, including the international bestseller, In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, the go-to book for understanding the manipulators in your life, what they're really like, how they really get the better of you, the tactics they use, how to respond to them, how to empower yourself, and then my book, Character Disturbance, which is an in-depth look at all the nefarious characters you're likely to deal with in your life, from the narcissists to the borderline personalities, you name it, they're all in there. And then my book, The Judas Syndrome, for the Christian faith community, the only book tailored to that audience that I have written to date. And then my wonderful book with Dr. Kathy Armistead, my co-author, How Did We End Up Here? The Survivor's Guide, the Toxic Relationship Survivor's Guide to Living in Our Character Disturbed World. How to move on, pick up the pieces, move on, how to understand what you've been through, how to make sure it doesn't happen again, and a real in-depth look at just how we did get here, not only answering that question for folks that have been in a toxic relationship, but asking that question more generally about how we got here as a culture, how we slid down that slippery slope of character decline and ended up with some of the difficulties that we have these days. And so I write about it. I also speak about it. I'm giving professional workshop trainings all this year. I've been busy on the road, and I'm going to be doing so again for a good portion, about half of next year, a little better than half of next year. And then I plan to stop. And I plan to take another stab at full retirement. But in the meantime, I'm here behind the microphone here at UCY.tv with another edition of Character Matters. And if you want to join the conversation tonight, the number to call is 717. I'm sorry, I'm giving the number incorrectly. It's 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. And I'll be happy to take your call. Hopefully, we will not have some of the difficulties that have plagued us in times past. We think we're beyond that. I hope we are. I want to have a pretty lively discussion tonight because we got some heavy issues that we're going to be talking about. I began posting on the so-called ninth commandment of character development on my blog at manipulative-people.com this past Friday. The first of several articles on the so-called ninth commandment of sound character. It's a little preview into my upcoming book, again with my co-author, Dr. Kathy Armistead, titled The 10 Commandments of Character, How to Lead a Significant Life, the essential life lessons that we have to master and learn to become decent, responsible human beings. And I'm in the process of editing that book right now, and I surely hope that very early on at the first of the year, we will be ready to go to press with the 10 Commandments of Character, How to Lead a Significant Life. But I'm giving a preview of it on the blog, have been for the past couple of months. So mosey on over to manipulative-people.com, take a gander at the articles. But I want to talk a little bit about this ninth commandment that I just started posting about, which has to do with how people of decent character need to treat other people. And that's something that I suspect will prompt some debate. So if you want to join the conversation at some point during the program, once again, the number to call is 718-717-8296. But the ninth commandment is all about treating others with civility and generosity. Now, I notice I did not say treating others with respect, because I have come to certain conclusions about respect. And, you know, words actually do mean things, and they have certain meanings. And respect is one of those really precious human commodities where people take a second look, basically, not only at themselves when it comes to self-respect, but at others. The word literally means to look again, to take that second look at a person and afford them some regard for what they have done with themselves in their life, how they've conducted themselves. And so respect is one of those things that actually has to be earned. And So the commandment has to do with treating others with civility, common decency, which is not so common anymore because we've kind of lost our compass or our basic ground rules about what constitutes basic decency. There's just too much relativism these days about everything. But it has to do with treating people with decency and with generosity. And a generous heart is one that just does not feel the need to be so concerned with one's own condition that one cannot uh, be appropriately regarding of somebody else. So the ninth commandment is all about treating others with a generous, open heart and with civility. Now, that does not mean that does not mean that we let people walk over us. Doesn't mean we let them just trample all over us. And it also doesn't mean that we tolerate abuse of any kind or that we let ourselves be used in any way. Doesn't mean that. It just means, just as the golden rule suggests, that we don't treat people as we believe they have treated us, but that we respond in a manner like we would want to be treated within appropriate limits and boundaries. You know, it's perfectly possible to draw a clear line in the sand with somebody and not be hostile about it. And I make the point in my article that that's also the heart of proper therapy with character disturbed individuals. In proper, and I do mean that very sincerely when I say proper, in therapy that works, that's really meant for and is appropriate for dealing with individuals who have significant character disturbances. Traditional insight-oriented therapies are not appropriate, and many a victim of an abusive spouse or relationship partner has found that out the hard way. They've experienced what I call therapy-induced trauma because they went for help to a traditionally minded therapist, and that they found out that things got no better pretty darn quickly. As a matter of fact, their manipulative partner may even have been able to pull the wool over the therapist's eyes because the therapist's biases about why people do the things that they do really got in the way. But the heart of really good therapy, effective therapy, appropriate therapy for individuals with character disturbances is employs what we call benign confrontation, which means calling out and directly confronting and setting limits and boundaries and enforcing them with people who basically tend to want to cross those boundaries and violate the limits. So you've got to be firm. It's a kind of the kind of therapy that works is a kind of a tough love kind of thing, whereby you respond generously and civilly with somebody, but within very distinct parameters. Not everything goes, not anything goes. There are certain rules of engagement, I call them, and they have to be observed. And so the therapy session becomes a training ground for basically teaching the person who doesn't know how to relate in a healthy manner how to do just that. That's the magic of appropriate therapy. And I've spent my entire life professionally honing down the skills necessary to do that. And I share them on my blogs and in my book. And if you're one of those people who have found some helpful resources in some of my work, I can't say enough of how validating that feels to me. It's the very reason for my work, and I get so many emails every week from folks uh, expressing gratitude for that, and believe me, it really is heartwarming. It touches my heart more than you'll ever know. It's the main reason I did this. I never, when I first started writing and speaking and getting my work out there in the public's eye, I never, ever imagined that I would have had the response and the life that I enjoy these days. Um, I just felt a pressing need to get the point of view out there that would help people because I knew there were so many people in these circumstances uh, and people who were desperately trying to get help but couldn't find it. And so I, I really only had in my mind the desire to kind of get the word out, to plant the seeds, as it were, and just see where it would go. And I never imagined that the response would be as it has been. So I really can't thank folks enough for all the support that I have received these many years. Now, I want to tell you that next Sunday, being Christmas Day, uh, I plan to take a break from the microphone, and I plan to do the same thing New Year's Day, although that might change. It's possible. So bear with me on that. There might be a kind of a late announcement. If you're listening New Year's Day, I will announce during the program whether it's a live program or not. But not quite sure about it. The likelihood is that I will actually be taking some time off. So, in lieu of that, in lieu of the fact that I'm going to be spending some really quality time with my family, and that I'm also going to be doing some finishing touches, putting the finishing touches on the edits for the upcoming book, The 10 Commandments of Character: How to Lead a Significant Life. Given that, um, tonight's program is really going to focus on the sentiments that really ought to dominate our thoughts and minds and hearts at this time of the year. We've come to the rapid close of another fairly difficult year. And I'm very nervous about where we're headed. I'm not one of those who's willing to um, who's willing to basically uh, prophesy about what is likely to happen under the next administration, because I actually think that in our day and time, for a lot of reasons, for a lot of sociocultural reasons, one of the reasons that narcissism in personalities, well, one of the reasons why so many individuals have narcissism in their personalities, whether they have a full blown narcissistic personality disorder or not, one of the reasons why there are so many individuals with so much narcissism in their personalities is because, to a great extent, in the milieu we've set up for ourselves, to a great extent, narcissism is adaptive. And in some circles of life, in some spheres of functioning, in some areas of doing business, for example. It pays huge dividends. So a lot of folks are very reinforced for being narcissistic. Now, when it comes to intimate relationships, it's pretty much always toxic. So unfortunately, it's never really very healthy to be in a relationship with a narcissist. But there can be mutual self-serving even in even in intimate relationships with narcissists. So for a number of reasons in our culture, uh, narcissism has become adaptive in many ways. So I'm not one of those who's going to sit here and prophesy doom and gloom, because I actually do believe that people who are absolutely determined to win and to look good um, are actually motivated in many ways to do some things that have positive payoffs. So I fully expect that our president elect, because of the determination to win and to look great, will actually do some things that will actually be good or will have some positive payoff. Now, does that mean that I would want to hold up the person as an ideal role model? Well, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different story, and probably another program. But I was reflecting earlier today as this year comes to a close, and as we're on the precipice of a new year. I was reflecting, and I truly believe this in my heart, folks. I do believe that we are on the cusp of one of the most profound revolutions in human history. You know, we didn't get here overnight. We have been at this development of ourselves for thousands of years. We weren't even communicating like we do not that long ago. It took us many, many thousands, hundreds of years just to be able to communicate in written word so that we could record events, pass them down, instead of just handing off stories. We've come a long way, but we still have vestiges of our past within us all. We're still evolving. We're still evolving as a species. This is the great message of evolution. We're still going somewhere. We're still being worked on by nature and other forces. And we're not there yet. And so, what we're experiencing now, I believe, is the slow beginning of the end of tribalism, something that has carried us through generation after generation for thousands of years, helped us build great nations. But the task that we have before us, matter of fact, a great thinker, Teilhard de Chardin, said this very thing. He said that the age of nations has actually now passed. The task for mankind or humankind now is to build the earth. And so you have these movements. these movements that look radical to folks who are trying to preserve traditional values. And so we have this polarity that's developed. And this is part of the inherent strife of life, part of the inherent yin and yang of nature that is unavoidable. But it's also the beginning, I believe, of some true birth pangs, ushering in a new era to come. It's not going to come overnight. And the delivery of this new baby is not going to be easy. These birthing pangs are going to be pretty dire, I'm afraid. Because we still have a lot of tribalism in us. And it's not going down easy. And we still have too many of us who really think that if folks don't act like and think like we do in our tribe, in our religion, our country, whatever the case may be, that there will never be peace. And what we're going to see happen, I think I can make this prediction fairly well. It's going to get a lot more contentious before it gets better. We always learn the hard way. And we have enough intellectual capability, and we have enough technical capacity to do really horrendous things to one another. So our very existence is going to be put on the line. Our very existence is going to be put on the line. We have spent most of our history as a species fighting each other. And the ninth commandment is all about having the proper response no matter what the invitation is. It's a really, really tough commandment. It's a really, really tough commandment. And that's why I'll be writing about it for quite some time over the coming weeks. So I hope you'll mosey on over to manipulative-people.com and take a look through the article and muse about it, and digest it. Maybe you'll have a comment or two to make on it. All the readers on the blog really appreciate that. The comments, by and large, on the blog are always very helpful. And if you want to join the conversation tonight, if you want to talk about where we're headed, what's in store for us in the coming year, we can speculate, we can talk about it. Give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. And as I understand it, a Skype call can be placed to that same number. So we'll see. We'll see what happens if somebody wants to try and call in via internet protocol. But the number to call is 718-717-8296. And I'll be happy to take your call if we can resolve any technical difficulties and patch folks through. Now, I was talking a bit ago about this year and it being a rough year. It was a rough year in a number of ways. It was a rough year for a lot of folks in various places in the world. The world is not a peaceful place, generally speaking, these days. And there are a lot of places that appear peaceful that are right on the edge, that they're just smoldering tinderboxes. And what always amazes me, folks just never seem to learn. History doesn't seem to be able to teach us very much. What always seems to happen and never ceases to amaze me is that when different factions start to get more militant about their dissatisfactions, and they start a more militant crusade to right wrongs, and they turn to violence as a solution, then it's so typical for the other side to dig in its heels and to basically rely on power as the only ultimate solution. And the way history has worked is that we end conflicts by beating the other side into submission. The other side has got to holler uncle. And then that cools things off for a while. And then there's a rebuilding period. But inevitably, discontent brews once again. And then we're back at the same old cycle. And we have to transcend that cycle if we're going to survive. We have to get beyond that. We have to tend to people's basic needs and make sure the opportunity is there. Now, I'm not saying that we have to enable those who are perfectly capable, but also unwilling to do their fair share. I've met some of those folks too. I know they're out there. I know that there are those folks who basically play the victim role. That's one of the manipulation tactics I talk about in Sheep's Clothing. Folks who play the victim role to get sympathy and basically to avoid the hard work of responsibly fending for themselves appropriately, getting others to do their bidding. I know that that happens. It does happen. But it's not always the case. There really are individuals out there hurting. And it is not, a society is not healthy when there is not room for all to participate and to participate well. You know, we have all these statistics, and unfortunately, our government lies to us about most of them. For instance, we have these statistics about employment, unemployment. But it's based upon those actively seeking work. And it doesn't count those who have just permanently left the workforce because they retired early or found some other means of subsistence or simply quit trying and decided to live life at a lower economic level. So, unfortunately, the numbers don't tell the whole story. And the real unemployment rate is unfortunately much, much higher. So things are still tough for a lot of folks out there. And then when you add to that this travesty When you add to that, that we've taken about 11% of our population, and because they are so dysfunctional, they can't be trusted to function on their own. They're incarcerated, they're warehoused and taken care of by the rest of us. Now, with that much of a population out of circulation, wouldn't you expect a more robust economy and community life? We have some really serious systemic issues. And one of the marks of a good demagogue is knowing that and offering the potential to bring about remedies. We will soon see. We will just soon see how much can be delivered. But this country is not run by its leaders. This great country, and this is the reason why you hear the song that plays at the beginning and the end. This country belongs to and is run by us. And the fact that we have allowed things to deteriorate to the point where it takes two people trying to raise a family, working full time just to make ends meet. The fact that we have allowed that to happen with all of the consequences of that, and to be so busy and to be so stressed that we don't have time to tend to everything else, including the business of making sure that our political affairs run properly. The fact that we let that happen is a real travesty. Whenever a candidate is running for office, they often rally the crowds by saying, we're going to take our country back. And then we turn over the duty to take the country back to that person. It's our duty. That duty belongs to us. And it's a mark of real character to assume that duty in some way, to get beyond ourselves and our own needs and invest ourselves in something bigger. So I've got to say, I'm going to give a shout out to my beautiful and most decent wife who came to a similar realization last year and has spearheaded an effort locally here to do just that, to really make a difference. And she's kind of helped waken me from my slumber on this issue too. I've been so concerned with training professionals and working with clients and writing books and giving lectures and doing all those kinds of things that I have done, that I have allowed my attention to drift a bit from the even bigger picture and all of the social injustices that still exist that foment all of this discord. And so we are getting busy. We are getting very busy and getting active, and we'll be doing more so. Because we all need that bigger picture. We have to get beyond our self-centeredness. We have to particularly get beyond our tribalism and realize that we're all in this together. And we can have disagreements. But if we are not 100% committed to the truth and we are not open so that we can be generous and civil, we're not going to make it. The stakes are way too high. The stakes are far too high. And we have to get really, really dead serious about something else, folks. We have to get really dead serious about changing hearts and minds, starting with our own. That's where it all starts. We are not going to beat into submission all those who we perceived as potential foes. Our safety and security is never going to really rely on how many bombs we can make, how big they are, how many missiles, and how accurate, and how fast we can fire them, and how many troops we can put on the ground, and how much damage we can do. That's not where the ultimate solution lies. Or you can argue about whether it's necessary to some degree. That's not the point. It's never made the world safe. We've, there's that saying that Einstein never said, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We have been trying to so-called keep the peace the same way for tens of thousands of years. And it's not working. We have spent most of our existence as a species fighting one another. This is what we do. And we're about, well, many of us are about to celebrate a commemoration of the birth of a person that many of us say that we follow. And I'm not sure what that even means to some people. But to me, it means following somebody who had a radical idea. And that is that you can only love the world to health. And that is the strongest force that we have. And our only hope. And it just boggles my mind how so many times I hear people in the name of this person saying and doing so many unloving things. It just boggles my mind. It seems the height of hypocrisy. A lot of people experience a good deal of sadness at this time of the year because they want it to be a time of joy. And yet their families are fractured. Maybe they've lost someone. Maybe they've lost a job and don't have the means. It's a tough time for many. This is the time that we're called upon to think outside of ourselves and to find the real joy and the power in giving. Sometimes it can be just giving our time, giving of ourselves, calling that person up that we've allowed ourselves to become estranged from, reconnecting, reestablishing a bond, sending the message that we care. Sometimes it can be just that simple, and it goes a long way. We have to do a better job loving one another, or we will not make it. No species is going to ultimately thrive and prosper preying on itself. And we have been trying to ensure our safety by trying to wield power over one another for a long, long time. And it's not been working. It never has worked. It never will work. Things weren't designed like that. But I'm hopeful. I think that we're really on the brink. I think we're on the cusp. A new age is about to dawn. But it's not going to just roll in like thunder quickly. It won't be just a panacea overnight. It's not what's going to happen. It's going to get really, really rough. And what's going to be particularly rough coming up is this war of ideologies that is just really now heating up. We haven't seen the end of this. Some major clashes of ideologies. The good news is that in the process, despite the fact that it will be painful, is that we're going to have to come to terms with the ways we think about things. You know, the heart of what we call in psychology the cognitive behavioral revolution was the realization that how we feel in our heart, the values that we hold, the beliefs that we hold, and the ways we think about things, in large measure determine how we act. And so when you want to look about why folks are doing some of the things that they're doing, why there's so much conflicts, it has to do with the ways people think about things. And what's going to be exposed more and more and more are the vast differences between us. In many cases, about how we think about things. And we're going to have to come to a more proverbial meeting of the minds. And we're going to have to confront some things. But how we do that, if we do it with generosity and with civility, but without avoidance and without escape, and we confront one another about our attitudes and the way we think about things with an eye always fixed on touching and transforming the heart, then there's hope. But that's the way we change the world. All of the great leaders of peace movements and social justice movements knew this. From Gandhi to Martin Luther King, they all knew this. And they were all willing to sacrifice their own selves and their own lives for that same purpose. And in just a few days, those of us who call ourselves Christian will prepare to celebrate, commemorate the birth of another, willing to lay it all on the line for the love of this race, the human race, that we might have boundless life, precious life. And how we were told to do it is to do a heck of a lot better job loving than we have for all these many years. So for me, that's what this time of the year always gets me to reflecting on. And especially reflecting on all of the ways that I've fallen short of loving to the best of my ability. It's not easy. It's a pretty straightforward proposition, but it's just not easy. Because we still have that lingering legacy of our genetic past. We are tribal creatures. That's how we're wired. And we're in the process of evolution. We didn't always have these minds that we have. And the hope is, for the future, that those minds will become stronger, more enlightened, more powerful still. And that the human spirit will dominate over our baser instincts. That's really what character is all about, after all. This is what I talk about in all my workshops. You know, there's danger in not admitting our animal side. If we don't own our basic nature and all of our basic inclinations, if we don't own that, there's big time trouble there, psychologically speaking, for anybody. And it takes an awful lot of love, an awful lot of the proper kind of self-love, and an awful lot of the proper kind of love for our fellow human beings to transcend and to rise above that more baser nature and take that step and evolve to the next level where we function on a different plane, where we're basically new creatures. It's been said so many ways by so many different prophets throughout the ages, and yet the message seems to escape us. We don't evolve overnight. It takes a long time, and we're still in the process. But I am a firm believer. I know that we're on the brink. We're at the beginning The very, very beginning, the birth pangs, you can see them happening, of a new age, of a different kind of enlightenment. This has happened throughout history before, and it will probably happen many times again. And it's exciting. I'm excited just to see what kind of role I might be able to play in this outside of all that I've been doing. I feel called to do something a little bit different. So I'll be keeping you abreast of that as things develop. But I really do believe that we're just on the cusp of turning a major corner in our social evolution. It's really a must. It's really a must. You know, I read a book quite a while back, called The Physics of Immortality. Basically, the premise was that if the human race is going to survive, certain things are just a given. For one thing, we can't stay here forever. The resources will be depleted. And besides which, as the solar system ages and as the universe ages, certain things happen. There's going to come a point in Earth's history where it's not going to be habitable by human beings. That's a scientific fact. So we will have had to have learned how to traverse great distances, how to find survivable places or make places that aren't survivable now survivable in some ways. And in order to get to that point, we will have had to have learned to gotten along with one another, quit killing each other, and preserving our best minds. Otherwise, we die. And in a few days, some of us, will commemorate the birth of one who came to tell us how. And it's just too bad that he and so many others carrying the same message have that message fall on deaf ears. Still, I don't give up hope. I've always had hope. And I'm even more hopeful now, especially now that things are as tenuous as they've ever been. And the world seems to be once again a tinderbox, just like it was before the outbreak of each of the two world wars. So I know it's going to be tough. So with that, we'll be praying very hard for this coming new year, and also praying that in this time of reflection, in this time of giving, in this time of contemplating peace on earth, and goodwill to mankind, that we will all take seriously the charge that each one of us has to change the world the only way that we can, and that is through changing the human heart. And that, of course, starts with each and every one of us. And so, and on that note, I'm going to leave you and wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll see you next year in 2017. I'm Dr. George Simon. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.